Welcome to the Classic Motorsports Garages, everyone. We've been doing a lot of restoration work lately on our Bug-Eye and a couple other cars as well. And one thing we really love is when the pieces on our car have a beautiful and durable finish on them. I've always loved a powder-coated finish. It's a very durable finish. It's a flexible finish. It's not prone to chipping. It's very good in high wear areas. But I've always been intimidated by it, thinking it was a complex process. Powder coating was something you took to somebody else to have done. Then we discovered the Eastwood PCS-250 dual voltage powder coating system, and it really demystified the process for me. Now, this is not a clean out-of-the-box powder coater that other channels might show you, because I've actually been using this one for a while in preparation for shooting this video, and also because I just really like the finish of powder coated goods. Let's take a look at what the actual system entails. First off, you can get into a powder coating system for under a couple $100. The basic Eastwood PCS-250 dual voltage gun is under $130. They have a starter kit that includes some additional accessories for under $150. You can get a very complete starter kit, which includes some powder, some cleaners, and a bunch of accessories for under $200. It's not an expensive process to get into at all. And all you need is an oven. So we went on Craigslist, bought an oven for about 60 bucks. The downside is once you use an oven for powder coating, that oven is then dead to you for food preparation. So the powder itself is very fine, and because it is extremely fine, your work area needs to be very breeze free. Any airflow in and around your work area will affect the process. Now, powder coating, like so much of coating, whether you're painting something, electroplating something, prep is everything, and especially when it comes to powder coating, because the powder itself does not have any adhesive qualities to stick it to the surface besides the current you are passing through it that will electrostatically adhere the powder to the surface. So your surface prep needs to be exceptional, because only places that are carrying a charge through your workpiece are going to attract the powder. So any rusty areas, any areas that have polyester filling in them, any plastic areas are not going to let that powder adhere. Now, we're in Florida. It's very humid here, so any bare metal instantly gets a very light coating of corrosion on it. So we're going to take this piece over to our blast cabinet, blast it off completely. That has been my favorite preparation method for anything that I am powder coating, is blasting it in the media cabinet. It complicates the process a little bit, but it is by far the best type of prep you can do for prepping the surface, because it evenly cleans the surface and it actually gives the surface just a little bit of texture for that powder to adhere to a little bit better. So once we're out of the blast cabinet, you need to make sure the piece is completely free of contaminants. We're going to use some of this Eastwood pre-painting prep to do a final cleaning on here. We've already blown this off with some high pressure air to get any of the stray blasting media off of there. We're just going to give this a final wipe down, make sure it is clean and dry and completely free of any foreign contaminants. So I mentioned before, prep is really important with powder coating, just like any coating, but particularly with this. So the extra time you spend on prep is going to pay off in a nice finish and a durable finish as well. Now, a complex part like this, you've got a lot of interior spaces. You got to be mindful of those when you're blasting. I made sure to get as much media as I could down in here, because we're going to have to make sure to get all of these areas coated as well when we are doing the powder coating process. So I mentioned this is an electrostatic process. It uses a charge passed through the workpiece to electrically attract the powder to itself. So we have to get that charge through the piece, and we do that by hooking this electrode to the piece, or even easier, hooking this electrode to a wire that is suspending the piece. So you have to get this piece into the oven. So you're sort of limited by the size of your oven, and also if the piece is hanging, that's less contact area. Anything contacting the rack is not going to get get coated very well. So the easy way to do that is to hang the piece from the rack and then put the rack in the top. So we're going to put this wire through here. So we've only got a couple of points of contact. Now we have to have some point of contact because we have to get the charge into the piece. But we want to have as few points of contact as possible. And then we'll hang this from the rack. And now we've got this little pigtail up here, which is a great place to hook your electrode onto because it is going into direct contact with the workpiece. Now, hey, there you are. Trust me when I say you don't want to handle this piece at all after you get the powder on there. The bond between the powder and the workpiece before the powder is cured on there is very, very light. In fact, you can blow the powder right off with high pressure air if you want to. Makes it great if you've decided, oh, I don't want it this color, or I've made a mistake, or I accidentally touched it, or a bug flew into it, or whatever. But you do not want to handle this piece as very, very little as possible between the time you get the powder on there and the time you get it in the oven. So get as much preparation done in advance as you possibly can. So the pieces of the system are fairly simple. You've got an applicator gun here, which has a screw-on receptacle that houses the actual powder. You just pour the powder from the jars right into here. You're gonna have to run air to this, and it does not need much air at all. You're gonna be used anywhere between about 5 to 10 pounds of air pressure, and that is not very much. You'll see when the powder is actually going on that you're not really spraying the powder on. You're producing a cloud of powder around the workpiece that's then electrically attracted to the piece. This box is basically the heart of the system, and there's only one switch on here. It makes it real easy. That switch just changes the voltage from the high voltage setting to the low voltage setting. So why is different voltage good? Well, especially on a piece like this, a complicated piece, has a lot of folds, it has a lot of angles. When the charge is going through there, that charge actually is directional within the piece. And when you've got two surfaces that meet, especially at a 90-degree angle, where those surfaces meet, you can actually have a little bit of a different charge in that meeting area. So sometimes you'll get a piece that is very complex like this. You're having trouble getting the powder to stick either in the corners or in the peaks or in the valleys, and that is where having different voltages can help. Now, I've found that I get the best results when I just start on the high voltage setting and coat as much of the piece as I can in that, and then any gaps, any edges that I can't coat, I'll switch to the low voltage setting, try that. But sometimes you need a little bit of trial and error to find out what the best setting is going to be for your workpiece. This little button right here is going to activate the charge when we get ready to apply the powder. This will, holding this down, passes the charge through the workpiece, and that is what will attract the powder to the actual piece. And of course the electrode, which we have this handy pigtail of wire up here that we can attach the ground to, get a nice ground, get that charge going through that workpiece, and we are just about ready to apply powder to this guy. So we are dealing with an extremely fine powder here. It is not highly toxic, but it is definitely something that you want to protect yourself from. So a proper respirator is definitely a good idea. Covering your hands in something protective, we also recommend, and good eye protection whenever you are working with something in the shop is also a good idea. So because we are creating an electrostatic charge here, both in the powder itself and then bonding it to a charged piece here, there is a voltage going through this tip coming out of the gun right here. That's what charges the powder on its way out. So you definitely, there's actually a warning right here that says do not touch this. You definitely do not want to touch this. It will shock you. Ask me how I know. This on the end is a deflector. You'll see when we're spraying that you're not really spraying the powder directly on the piece. You are producing a cloud around the piece that is then being drawn to the piece. If you spray directly at the piece, you're just as likely to knock off existing powder as you are to apply new powder. So you want to produce more of a fog around the piece. Like just pretend you're the fog machine operator at a Blue Oyster Cult concert, and it is time for Don't Fear the Reaper. You want to produce just a cloud of powder around that piece that is drawn to that piece. So that is why the deflector is here, to deflect the flow of that powder coming out of the end of the gun into a more dispersed cloud that is then drawn to the piece. So we are completely coated. You probably saw that anything with negative space gives you some frustration. So you just have to kind of keep changing those voltages, keep coming at it from different angles, keep an eye on it, blow it in there as a fog, blow it directly in there. Takes a little bit of trial and error, but you know, you're not using a lot of powder, you will get it. And also, as you can see, there is a lot of powder dust that we've lost here. Now this cleans up very, very easily. You can just blow it off with high pressure air. You can mop it up, and you're done. But this is not something you want to do in your kitchen. So we are ready to go in the oven now. Time and temperature. Your bogey is going to be about 425 degrees for about 22 minutes. Your mileage may vary one way or the other. You may need a little more temperature. You may need a little more or less time. That's going to be something you want to play with a few test pieces. The shape and the size of your piece is also going to affect that, how that piece itself is heating and cooling and dispersing the heat. But 425, about 22 minutes. Check it, make sure everything is nice and flowed out. A couple more minutes isn't gonna hurt it. So that's gonna be roughly the time and temperature that you are dealing with. Our oven is preheating here, so we're gonna get our oven open, ready to accept our workpiece. Like I said, you don't wanna jostle or move your workpiece any more than you have to at this point. And this is why it really helps to have it on the rack already. Because you can just take that entire rack, slide it in there, and we will see you in about 22 minutes. For a setup that between the device itself, between the powder, which only costs $10 to $20 for a jar, for well under $200, including a low-cost compressor, this is something you can do at home, and you can produce results that look every bit as good as something you would get from a major professional supplier. So for somebody who is not well-versed in painting and coating things, this is something I picked up pretty quickly, and although the prep can be a little bit time-consuming and is very sensitive, when you do that good prep, you are rewarded with excellent results from this Eastwood powder coating system. So as far as difficulty goes, I would not call this a difficult process at all, but it is a process that requires some patience and some determination because the prep is so involved, because it is a bit of a complex process. There's a lot of tubes and wires, and it is easy at any stage to bump something, to touch something, and to knock things off. So I would not give this a high difficulty score, but this is a process that you have to be attentive to. It's not something you can do quickly. It's not something you can grab a can of spray paint, set something down, spray it, 20 minutes later, you are done. This takes some setup, it takes some tear down, it takes a dedicated area to do it, but the reward, in my opinion, is worth the work. If you've got a piece that you want to put on your car that you're not going to be taking off anytime soon, it's in a high wear area, you want it to look good, it is worth the additional prep time and the additional complication of this process to put a proper powder coated finish on it. Eastwood stuff is available directly from them. Eastwood.com will give you all the information there, and again, it is not expensive at all. Under 200 bucks will get you powder coating at home, plus the cost of an oven, and a used oven is available pretty much anywhere, and there's also dedicated powder coating ovens out there that you can purchase as well. If you want to know more about what we're doing, check us out on the web at classicmotorsports.com. Do me a favor, if you're watching this video on YouTube, go right down here, hit that subscribe button. You will be notified about everything that we release, and we will see you next time out in the shop. Thanks for watching.
Support brands that support classic motorsports. Get your chemical solutions from CRC Industries. Visit crcindustries.com to learn more.